okay. I'm going to describe to you what my experience was of how I would describe the transition from knowing that I'm breathing and being aware that I have been breathing to being here as this breath in this moment. And how I would describe that is picture some water, an ocean, a body of water with some gentle swells like this, and that's the breath. So you have your crest and your trough and your crest and your trough. And for me, what I see that the struggle in being aware of breath was within me just knowing that I'm breathing instead of being here as this breath in this moment. Meaning back to the troughs of the waves and the crests of the waves analogy. So me knowing that I'm breathing, like from the starting point of me being in my mind, observing that I'm breathing, knowing that the breath is there, happening, is kind of like me riding in a boat, a dinghy, riding on the troughs, up and down in the troughs. And while I'm in that boat, it's much easier to look around in the boat so the boat being my mind. And while I'm in that boat, riding the wave of my breath, I can peer over the side of the boat, or I can feel that I'm breathing and know that I'm breathing, and yes, be aware that I am breathing. But when I'm in that boat, there's all kinds of stuff in that boat to do. There's rope, there's, a fishing rod, there's all kinds of stuff. And so it's easier to become distracted and lose awareness of breath when I'm in that boat. So then what I experienced was, and in the boat I can look back and see my wake, the wake of the boat, the wake of my mind, the past. And I can look ahead from this vantage point of being in the boat and see the water ahead. So I can project myself ahead and I can look behind and I can be in the present in the boat doing all kinds of stuff. And yes, I can know that I'm breathing. But then what I experienced was me being aware of this breath is like the bottom of that boat falling through, and then all of a sudden I'm in the water and the boat is no more, and I'm the water. I'm not me in the water. I'm not me in the boat, but I am then that water. So I am the trough and I am the crest of the water. So I can only ever be in this trough and this crest of the wave, of the breath. And I'm not able to look behind me. I can look behind me, but in order to do that, I have to get into the boat. so that I can have that vantage point of looking behind me or looking ahead. So that seems like a good analogy for being aware of knowing that I'm breathing from the vantage point of being in my mind as that boat, or being this breath here as the water, no boat. Not this breath in time, as in this present breath, but just I am here as this breath, this trough and this crest, and this trough and this crest. And what I find is that what do I find? Well, I find that it's easier from that starting point to observe my mind moving. It's easier to see when I'm swimming towards the boat. It's easier to see if the boat is drifting towards me, the boat as my mind is easier to see when it's drifting towards me, and it's easier to see when there's something tempting dangling off the side of the boat that maybe is tempting me to climb back into the boat, back into my mind. And so being here as that wave, as this breath here, that is my starting point, where the trough being, I just exhaled and I'm now here in the beginning of this moment, the beginning of this wave, and the only thing to do is to breathe in, is to become this swell, and then I'm at the peak, and then I exhale and I move back into that trough, and then I'm there, and the only thing again to do is to have another breath, to breathe once more. So it's this breath in this moment, and so that's how I experience me breathing here as this breath, as my starting point, as opposed to me being in that boat of my mind, knowing and being able to see that I'm breathing, but also having that vantage point of being in time and being able to look back at my wake, the wake of the boat, the wake of my mind, or project myself into the future by looking at the water ahead. So that's how I would describe the difference that I've experienced between being in my mind, knowing that I'm breathing, and being here in the water, as each breath, as each wave. Oh, there's only ever this one breath, this one wave, and that's where I am. I'm here, and so that that has, like I said, given me. From that starting point, I'm more easily able to observe my mind moving. I'm more easily able to observe that boat coming close to me, or observe if I'm swimming towards that boat of my mind. So that's my analogy of being in the boat of my mind, knowing that I'm breathing, as opposed to being here as the water, as the breath, as one breath. And of course, this now is when you can look at stability as opposed to balance. If I'm in that boat, the boat has to balance. The boat can tip over. You can fear that the boat's going to capsize or turn over. Basically, within the boat, you feel like you're at the mercy of the ocean. And so you have to try and maintain a balance. If you're over here or over there too much, the boat might tip over and it goes off balance because the boat's floating there in the water. So and then being here as the water, as this breath, I am here, my starting point is stability as breath, and so it's not about trying to achieve a balance, but it's about stopping my mind from the starting point of being here as this breath, so that I remain here in stability as the ocean, so that I'm not climbing constantly back into that boat and then having to try and maintain balance. I stop the mind, I stop having to try and balance, and I remain here as the water, as this breath, as stability. So in the mind, I balance, and here in awareness as breath, I am stable. That's all I have to say for now. I will talk to you guys later. Bye.